Turn with me, if you will. I need to practice my words. It's really sounding good. Starting with Daniel chapter 7. Fairly lengthy reading, but I think it's necessary. Verse 2, Daniel said, "In my vision at night I looked, and there before me was the four winds of heaven, churning up the great sea. Four great beasts, each different from the others, came up out of the sea. The first was like a lion, and it had the wings of an eagle. I watched until its wings were torn off, and it was lifted from the ground, so that it stood on 2 feet like a man, and the heart of a man was given to it. And there before me was a second beast, which looked like a bear. It raised up on one of its sides, and it had 3 ribs in its mouth between its teeth, and was told, 'Get up, eat your fill of the flesh.' After that I looked, and there before me was another beast, one that looked like a leopard, and on its back it had 4 wings like those of a bird. This beast had 4 heads and was given authority to rule. After that, in my vision at night, I looked, and there before me was a 4th beast, terrifying and frightening and very powerful. It had large iron teeth. It crushed and devoured its victims and trampled underfoot whatever was left. It was different from all the former beasts, and it had 10 horns." Verse 13. "In my vision at night I looked, and there before me was one like the Son of Man, coming with the clouds of heaven. He approached the Ancient of Days and was led into his presence. He was given authority, glory, and sovereign power. All peoples, nations, and men of every language worshipped him. His dominion is everlasting dominion that will not pass away, and his kingdom is one that will be never destroyed." Verse 23. "And he gave to me this explanation. The 4th beast is a 4th kingdom that will appear on earth. It will be different from all the other kingdoms and will devour the whole earth, trampling it down and crushing it. The 10 horns are 10 kings who will come from this kingdom, and after them another king will arise, different from the earlier ones. He will subdue 3 other kings, and he will speak against the Most High and oppress his saints and try to change the set times and the laws. The saints will be handed over to him for a time, times, and a half a time. But the cord will sit, and his power will be taken away and completely destroyed forever. Then the sovereignty, power, and greatness of the kingdoms under the whole heaven will be handed over to the saints, the people of the Most High. His kingdom will be an everlasting kingdom, and all the rulers will worship and obey him. This is the end of the matter. I, Daniel, was deeply troubled, and in my thoughts and my face turned pale, but I kept the matter to myself." Let's pray. Lord, we thank you for the day that you've given us. We thank you for the opportunity to study your word. We pray that you'll guide us and help us to understand and be able to gather something from this message today that we can apply in our lives. In your Son's name. Okay, this is one of the tough lessons in Daniel. One of the ones that has all kinds of ideas of people trying to turn it into things that will say what they want it to say. I will try to tell you kind of what I see it as and what I think it says based on what Daniel says it is. And some other things in the Bible seem to bear out. And probably provide some alternate things. One of the things to remember, like I said time and time again, when we study prophecy, prophecy almost always has a near term, a far term, and a big picture. God uses the same prophecy over and over again to show different things at different times. Not always, but many, many times. We've looked at that in Jeremiah and Isaiah, and different things that were related to them versus Christ. And I think this is one of them that you're going to see that same situation. We just need to remember that whatever we do and whatever happens, one of the key things about understanding the Bible is it never contradicts something else. So if it does, then that's not right. We're talking about the physical kingdom versus the spiritual kingdom. Some people will use this to twist into the millennial thing. And the Bible clearly, and I'm going to show you here once again, it shows that that didn't happen. Is it going to happen? So, anyway, with that in mind, let's kind of look at that. We're continuing our study about Daniel. It was written to provide hope to both physical and spiritual Israel, or God's people. Then, that lived in a physical world, and then us who are part of His kingdom spiritually today. Shows how God uses the powers of this world in order to accomplish His will. We're going to see that big time today. Shows that the battle is really a spiritual battle and not a physical battle. It really comes out in this today. Shows how He judges the nations of the world and how Jerusalem will be victorious over Babylon. Once again, we're going to see that in this prophecy. Last week, we were looking at the situation with Daniel in the lion's den and how Satan thought he had God's godly man trapped and victorious over him, and then we find how God steps in, and the living God who reigns forever may have lost a little of the battle, but He wins the war. That's the message that comes over and over again. At the end, He's going to win. Michael, the protector of God's people, defeated Satan at that particular moment, and has and will always throughout history. God is always one step ahead and uses everything that Satan does. All the evil in this world, God uses it to further His will, what He has in mind. The problem is Satan doesn't see it happening. We looked at how Satan uses the governments of this world as his agents. Today, it's really going to be prevalent when we see that. We must recognize that this is happening, and in doing so, remain faithful. We don't need to tuck our tail and run like Elijah did. Instead, we need to stand our ground like Daniel did. And then always remember the big lesson that you get out of Daniel the lion's den is our God can save and rescue. He has that ability to do whatever. Today, we're going to look at the kings of this world versus the King of the Most High, God. Daniel has a dream. Now, the first verse, I didn't read it, but it basically says that it's during the reign of the last king of Babylon. Remember, he's the one that had the writing on the wall, and God said, tonight's your end. And sure enough, in comes the Persians and takes over. Well, during this king, the last Babylonian king, Daniel has a dream. Now, up until now, we haven't talked about Daniel having dreams. We talked earlier on how this section is written up through, actually through this chapter, is written in Aramaic. So that the general population, including the the people who are not God's people, can see and understand what's happening. Starting with the next chapter, which next week, we'll start into what is written in Hebrew. So it's written predominantly to the Jewish people. This is the only dream that's written that's for everyone to see, pretty much, or understand. And it's the only one of Daniel. But it basically says that all these dreams have been happening to all these other kings and all these other things. Daniel had the same thing. God revealed it to him in even more detail. And that's what we're going to look at a little bit today. All right, so he has this dream. And it's during the last king of Babylon's reign. And he sees a dream. What does he see? 4 beasts. Where do they come from? Out of the sea. Let's remember that, because out of the sea always represents the vastness. If you ever stood on the seashore and looked out of the ocean, what do you see? Water. You don't see anything else. And I don't care how high you get in that condominium or whatever, it's still water. And that's the idea. It's out of the vastness of humanity, and everywhere that you see this illustration, Revelation is another one, and you will see that it's talking about out of the vastness of humanity. When we look at this, keep in mind, and we said this from the beginning, a lot of people start talking about Daniel because of the figurative language, and it's similar in nature to that in Revelation, and we'll look at some of those relationships. One of the things I got to do is move quick, because this is a whole lot of stuff. But interject anytime, okay? So we see these 4 beasts, and we think of the first vision that Nebuchadnezzar had. What did we see in that first vision? You remember? Well, there was 4 something, wasn't it? There was a statue with 4 different parts, right? Each one represented a kingdom, an empire, starting with Babylon, Medes and Persians, Greeks, and the Romans. And each one of them were descriptive of the type of people. Now we see that not only Nebuchadnezzar had that dream, but Daniel had one similar. He had one with 4 beasts that come out of humanity. The first one is described as Lion. Lion, powerful, proud. You know, that's what you always think of. The Lion King, you know, the King of the jungle, all those things. We see the Lion King, and we see immediately that it represents the kingdom of Babylon, one that Nebuchadnezzar had established and made so great and powerful and recognized throughout the world. Okay? So we see that kingdom that was there. It was a lion on the wings of eagles. The second beast was a bear. Instead of standing funny, what was it standing like? Standing taller on one side, on one leg. So basically, one leg was higher than the other, what I was saying, like it was leaning or something, you know. So we see it standing on two legs. Notice it wasn't just the Persian Empire, it was the Medo-Persian. And out of that, one was stronger than the other, wasn't it? The Persians were historically the stronger of the two. Even though it was a combined empire, one really had the power. We see that taking place there. The third one was a leopard. A leopard with 4 wings and 4 heads. Okay, we're getting the picture. Babylon, Medo-Persian. What's the next one? The Greeks. Okay, the Greeks would come in and take it over. Remember how the Greeks did it? Fast. Who was the leader? Alexander the Great. He came in and went, before anybody knew it, he'd taken over the world. I mean, it was literally one of the fastest. People were just like, how did that happen? And he'd taken over all this from a bunch of little city-states, and suddenly he takes over the world. The empire at that time. Very fast, but then something happens. He dies. So you know what they did? They split the kingdom up into, how many would you guess, parts of the kingdom? 4 heads. 4 different groups. Without getting into all that detail, we're going to talk a little bit about it next week because the dream deals with that part. But basically, it's broken into 4 different portions, and with 4 different generals or groups of people would lead these things. So we see that this is what takes place. And then he goes on to what I want us to see is the most important thing that comes out of this particular lesson. After that comes a 4th beast. What animal does it look like? Good answer. It says it is a dreadful, terrifying, frightening, very powerful. It's descriptive. It's not of an animal that we get here. It's just like, it's different. Matter of fact, it's Daniel himself said it was different from all the rest in every way. It comes and it devours, it had iron teeth, and it crushed and devoured its victims and trampled the remainders under its feet. It was awful. It was everything Daniel could do to describe it, and there was no animal he could use. He just had to say it was awful. I mean, he had no way to describe it. It was bad. It was different than the rest. Why would it be different? It had a different purpose. There was something special, something unique about it that was going to take place. And as we get into this and we start looking, then we're going to find that this 4th beast is different. Now, what does it represent? What's the 4th empire? Rome. Rome. All right. Now, it was so terrifying that Daniel, and I skipped a part, but basically Daniel says, I want to know about this beast. Tell me about it, and tell me about these 10 horns that are on this beast, and what does all this mean? It was just so terrifying. There was something that drew him to that. And so as he was looking at that, he wanted to know what that was. All right? And it tells us, when Daniel is revealed, in the scriptures we read, that the 10 horns represent 10 what? 10 kings. 10 kings that are part of this beast. 10 kings that are part of Rome. Okay? So when we look at this and we start looking at that, it's coming from this kingdom. Now it says that there were 3 of them that had been felled or taken or defeated or subdued. There's like 3 different places it talks about in this chapter. That was by an 11th king. We want to know all about this. Well, he goes on and describes this 11th king, and what does he describe him as? What's he like? Did he speak highly of God? No. He blasphemed him. He didn't use those words, but basically said he spoke all kinds of evil and everything about God. He blasphemes God. What does he do to God's people? Oh, he doesn't just persecute them, he oppresses them, he does everything, imaginable thing to them. Basically, brings them pure misery. He also is the one that takes out these 3 kings that basically just, they call them short kings or short horns because they didn't last worth anything, and he takes them out. He oppresses the saints for a period of time. How long? Times, and a half a time. Okay? That's 1, 2, and a half. That's 3 and a half. Now, that could be a day, could be a year, could be a century, could be a period of time. It means different, whatever, depending upon how you look at it. And that's where a lot of people in the Christendom out there tries to twist all this around. It's part of it. But it basically is a way of measuring time. And it doesn't say exactly how long that is, so I don't know. But there are certain clues and some things come in, and I'm going to show you 3 different ways. But the first one let's talk about is right now. We are talking about Daniel finding out about Rome and what is going to happen to physical Israel. What is going to happen to him? That is the first primary. That's the first thing he wants to learn about. That's what all this is about. The first 4 all the visions you have seen have been about these first 4 things. And in the time of the 4th king, what would happen? 4th kingdom, what was going to take place? God was going to set up his kingdom, one that would never be destroyed. That was the lesson, the message, always in Daniel. 4 kingdoms, starting with Nebuchadnezzar, and in the period of the 4th, God would set up one that would never, ever be destroyed. It would be eternal. So the first message that we got to look at is, what has it got to do with that? All right, he goes on and he says, not only is that going to take place, but he's going to change something. What's he going to change? The seasons or the times, depending on your translations, and the laws. Okay, so what does that mean? All right, let's keep that in mind. We're going to see. Am I coming back to that, or I didn't deal with it? We're going to come back to that. Yep. That's right. I'm going to deal with this a little bit more. I'm trying to get what the thing says specifically first. All right. That's what it tells us. All right. Then after that, then these kingdoms will be given to the people who belong to the Most High God in His kingdom. So at that time, it's going to be turned over. After that, it will be given to them. Okay. That's the vision, what we see. In the middle of this, there was another vision that he talks about. He talks about the Son of Man. He says the Son of Man did what? Came from the clouds. Did not go to the clouds. This is important if you're talking about something that is at the end of time or before the end of time. Because when God returns, Christ is going to come from the clouds to the earth. At this particular time, it says it comes from the clouds, but it goes to where? The Ancient of Days. Who's the Ancient of Days? God, the everlasting, the one, the eternal one. We just got done studying last chapter about the living God that was eternal. So what we're seeing is the Son of Man, who by Jesus' own definition was himself. During this vision, during this period, during this 4th kingdom, the Son of Man, Jesus, would go from the clouds to God. Not from God, through the clouds to us. You're looking at premillennialism, you're thinking it's coming down. That's not what Daniel says. He's going from the clouds to God. So he goes to God, and when he goes to God, what takes place? what does God do? Gives him all authority over all kingdoms, over all principalities, over everything. And gives him all glory over the kingdom that God would establish for eternity. So during this fourth kingdom, we find that Jesus goes from the clouds to God, and God bestows upon him all the authority that goes, and the power and the glory that goes with ruling on the throne of the kingdom that God established during that time for eternity. That's the message. That's the dream. Now, when we look at that, Daniel says, tell me about this, after that, the very last things he says, that's the end of the matter. I like that. The very last verse it says, that's the end of the matter, and Daniel says he was terrified. He didn't like what that meant at all. Okay? So now when we say this, it says, okay, Daniel wanted to know more about this fourth beast. Tell me about this and these 10 horns. What is all that? What is all that? Actually, another question we asked. I was up at 1:30 last night, double checking my information to make sure I didn't say something without at least checking. Now, I'm not going to say I said everything correct because I try not to, but at least try to make sure that the information that I say is what I thought it was. Okay? So I double checked everything because this is a question everybody asks. And if you're looking and trying to translate it into something in the future, it's important to know what he's really talking about. So we need to take the things that he says. First things he says is that there were 10 kings. And I'm going to look first of all at the near-term prophecy, okay? Because that's what Daniel wanted to find out, what was happening during that physical reign of that fourth empire that would bring about the eternal kingdom, okay? So that would be the near-term prophecy that is specific to that event. We look at that, it talks about 10 kings. There are several different ways people look at it. One, 10 means a large number. Figuratively, you can use that to mean it. 3 typically means not a couple, but a few. Okay, so some people will look at that. And I think in other views or prophecies for long term, I think that probably comes in. But in the immediate term, the near term, I think it means exactly what it says. And I got thinking, and I remember in the front of my Bible, I have a timeline. And in front of my Bible has a timeline, and there's a whole list of rulers of Rome. And one of them has always stuck out to me. There were 3 of them dated the same day. When I remember that, I thought, wait a minute. What did Daniel say here? So I went back and started looking, and then I started doing some checking to see what some other folks thought, and it comes back to about the same thing. First of all, a guy named Pompey. Everybody heard of him? He's the one that basically took Rome from being just a large nation that had a lot of territory into being a power that was descriptive of this beast. Furthermore, he's the one that took Judah. Which one's important to these people listening? They got Judah. I don't care what happened before they came to Judah. Doesn't matter. Pompey comes, and he comes, and in 63 BC, he comes, and not only does he take Judah and make it part of Rome, but he also goes into the temple. What does that do for the Jews? That's an automatic no-no. That's an automatic enemy. That's the beginning. Take him and then start following him with Augustus Caesar and, not Augustus, Julius Caesar and then Augustus. And you start going down through it. Suddenly you get to number 8, 9, 10. 3 guys whose names are Galba, Otho, and Vitellius. We never hear about them, do we? That's because in AD 69 they lasted a few months, and each one of them killed off the others or fought off the others, and basically they ended up, nobody was in charge. And out of that, 11th Caesar takes over, a guy named Vespasian. Now we've heard of him. Okay? Alright, so he would be the 11th. He comes over to the king, and He had already gone to Jerusalem and made war on Jerusalem. What had he had done? AD 69, 68, what's happening? Laid siege. Because what happens in 70? Falls. He's already gone, and he's encircled the city of Jerusalem and laid siege to it. Remember what happened during that siege? Terrible. As a matter of fact, Jesus himself told them, when you see the signs, what do you need, Christians? When you see the signs, what do? Run to the hills and hide. Because you're never going to see a period of time like it ever. The Christians did exactly that. But we find that suddenly he's surrounded the city, he's choking them off, and it's so bad that they were killing each other and they were devouring each other. One of the examples in a book Rex Turner wrote talks about the fact that they were trying, even when they surrendered and gave themselves, they swallowed their money so that they could get out and go with them, and they would cut them open to take the money out of them. Awful. Sound like 11th War to you? Not only that, at this time we find that I jumped. I switched to this later, but I didn't switch it in my mind. But that's okay. And so later we find that these three kings are fighting, and all this ends, and Rome makes Vespasian the emperor, number 11. Actually, number 10, because Pompey technically was not, but he was the one that started it all. But the 11th ruler. Okay? So here he comes, the 11th king, the 11th ruler comes, and we find that he comes into, he's made Caesar, made over the power, and he leaves somebody there at the siege. Who's he leave? His son. What's his name? Titus. As soon as he becomes king, you know what he does in AD 70? Crush him. Not only does he crush him, but he destroys Jerusalem. Not only does he burn it to the ground, he tears it apart piece by piece, destroys the temple. Titus goes into the temple and defiles it. Everything that can be done to destroy this takes place. And when he does this, he obliterates Jerusalem, the temple, the priest, everything about it. What of Judaism is left at this time? Nothing. The law is gone. The temple is gone. There's no more festivals. There's no more days and times to go meet and to worship and do those things. Basically, God's physical kingdom was ended in AD 70 by this man. Okay? So we see that during this time, Judaism ends and God's kingdom triumphs. They had survived. They had fled to the hills. They had survived. God had protected them. And God's people now, the spiritual kingdom, those that belong to the kingdom that Jesus established, the church, is now still alive and thriving. And where does it thrive? Just in Jerusalem? Throughout the entire world. Now the prophecy said that during the reign of this 11th ruler, he would come, he would oppress he would come, let me get the right words. He would be terrifying, frightening, and very powerful. He would oppress the saints for time and a half. Many would say it was about 3.5 years. This period of time was approximately that period of time before he finally went ahead and dropped the hammer and finally destroyed this. During this time, he would blaspheme. You stand in the temple of God and do the things that did. Everything about him was about blaspheming God and basically erasing God as a whole. The kingdoms were to be given to the people of God. At this time, the kingdom of God suddenly was all over the world or whatever, and God's kingdom would rule throughout the world in different places, wherever his people were. Because he rules where? The hearts of men. So wherever men went, they couldn't defeat it. It was all over the world. When we look at this, we see, what I see as the most immediate prophecy had to do with this. The end of Judaism, the physical kingdom, and the permanent establishment of the spiritual kingdom. The replacement of one for the other was done under this period. And it was terrifying, because what did a good Jew like Daniel think? This was awful. What was going to happen to his people and what those things would do. The one that I skipped and I was going to go back to is during this period, there was during the reign, the Son of Man would approach God. All that happened in AD 70, but during AD 30, 33, what happened? What happened to the Son of Man? He was crucified and he was raised into heaven through the clouds to where? Sit at the right hand of God. Absolutely. And there in Ephesians, we just studied last quarter, chapter 1 tells us that he was given all power, all dominion to rule not just the earth, but heavens and the earth. He was made king, and that a kingdom, which he said before he was crucified, right before Pilate, is not of this world, because it's not physical, it's what? Spiritual, was established. Not as an afterthought, like some would say the church is, but it is one and the same. It was established at that time, but it was established to be a spiritual kingdom in the hearts of men. That's what was taking place. And so we see that took place in AD 30, just like during this same period that we're talking about during the rule of these 10 kings. We see how the 11th king, a ruler, would take this upon and eliminate and end God's people as a physical entity, and God's people would eventually survive and go on as a spiritual group, kingdom. All right, we all together there. Okay, that would be the near term. We start talking about the church and different things from there. There's a couple things to get from this. First of all, Michael, the protector of God's people, defeats Satan. We saw how he did it in the lion's den. We see how he did it here. Remember last quarter we took a long look at Revelation chapter 12. I encourage you to keep that in your thoughts and in your with your finger on it. We see that how Michael, when Christ was being crucified, was in the spiritual battle with Satan. Satan thought he won, and then 3 days later he found out he not only did he lose, he lost the war. As Christ becomes king and eternal, and it tells us in chapter 12, verse 13. Verse 10, now has come the salvation and the power and the kingdom of God and the authority of his Christ. It tells us that now he has become king. The kingdom is established. We see that in verses 13 through 16, how Satan, when he saw that he had been thrown to the earth, pursued the woman, or God's plan, and given birth to Christ and his church, and he went after the church. You know what happened from AD 30 to AD 70? He went out to destroy it any way he can. But God tells us in here that during this time, the woman, God's plan, his church, and everything about this was given the wings of an eagle so that it might fly to a place in the desert and be taken care of for, you want to know how long? A time, times, and a half a time. Out of the serpent's reach, which is what took place during this time when they fled to the desert in order to avoid being destroyed with the city of Jerusalem and the Judaism. God protected them in the desert, just like Jesus had warned them to do. Flee to the desert as fast as you can go. And they were protected for this period of time. And then the earth helped them, and when the dragon, verse 17, was enraged and went off to make war against the rest of her offspring, and those who obey God's commandments and hold to the testimony of Jesus. He tells us who the offspring is. And the dragon stood on the shore of the sea. Once again, looking on the seashore, out over humanity. And he goes out to make war. In verse 1, the dragon looks out over the sea because he goes to make war. You know what the next chapter deals with? The beast that comes out of the sea. It's still talking about the governments. I'll submit to you that one of the other things is when we look at the governments of this world as agents of Satan and things like that, and what we're talking about here in Daniel's dreams and the visions that John sees, we start looking at that. We want us to look at that. We talked about the near term, how that affected it. The future. In addition to that, when we look at time, times, and half a time, like I said, it could mean more than days or months or years or any one. Some would say that the Roman Empire lasted about 3.5 centuries. To about from about 60-something BC to the early 300 and something BC, AD. During that 3.5 centuries, they were totally opposed to God's people. Over and over again. Persecutions from all the way through this. It wasn't until like 1313, I think it was, a guy named Constantine, which we've heard of, suddenly switches the tune and says, enough's enough, we're going to make Christians okay. Suddenly, not only was no more oppression, but we find that he also embraces them and almost makes it the religion of Rome. See, he had already lost because the people were sick of it. They were up to here. They were tired of it. So that if you can't beat them, what do you do? Join him. That's basically what he did. Some people in Christian think he was a great guy for that. I think he was just convening. Maybe he had, I don't know his motive, so I can't tell you. But it was the politically smart thing to do. And then he turns around and not only does he do that, but he brings in religion and mixes it with the government, does he not? And eventually we end up with what? The Roman Church, the Catholic Church, the United Church, the one that becomes one and same as the government of Rome. It was only 100, 150 years after that before Rome finally just died, standing there, just kind of collapsed piece by piece by piece. So we see that this takes place over this period of time, and when that's happened, suddenly, just like in this prophecy said, that after 3.5 of pure torture, God's people suddenly become victorious and they rule the world. So you can look at it in the longer-term future, and now we can see that even in that period of time, that's what took place. Incidentally, during that period from Nero to 300 or 313 or whatever it was, there was 10 basic times where Caesar, starting with Nero and on through, basically did everything they could to exterminate Christians and Christianity. For that whole period of time, did everything they could. And then suddenly we have a twist and turns over. Could it be that this was a little bit longer term prophecy? Probably. Then the other one would be this, and this is the one that really, I think, affects us. 10 represents a large number. I don't believe it ended with Rome, do you? I think that the Roman Empire was different from the rest because it was descriptive of not just Rome, but all that would follow thereafter. That would have one goal in mind, and that goal was to do what? Devour, destroy, and trample God's people. And it would happen for a period of time. I don't know what that is. A time? 2 times? Half a time? This period of time. And all that would take place. And at the end of that time, what would take place? What would God's people be? Victorious. Isn't that what the book of Revelation is all about? There will be battle. There will be oppression. There will be all these things. And then God will be victorious. I think that's the big lesson for us. I think we can see that it really happened in that first century, 80, 70, 30, 70. I think we can see that it happened in a bigger, longer term for Rome. And I think if we looked at this, we can see that from the big picture, God's saying that's going to happen and happen and happen again until such time as God's people are completely victorious, and we read through the rest of Revelation where His people worship Him and stay with Him and live with Him for eternity. I really believe that's the message there. One other note before I go. When we talk about that second vision, the one where 350 years plus or minus, 3.5 centuries, we see all that, and we see at the end of that, in order for Rome to survive, what does Rome embrace to? Christianity. When you read Revelation here, 13th chapter, at the end of it starts with the beast out of the sea, then it goes into the beast from the earth, which talks about the beast, the one that is religion, that looks like religion. Guess what happened? When Constantine brought him in and said, we're all part of that, suddenly Christianity looked like Christianity, but it was no longer. And we see how the church grew away from what God had it to be into what later would become the Roman Catholic Church, basically. Grow as apostatized and went away from that. And I think that's exactly what Revelation is trying to depict in that near first 500 years or whatever part of history. I think, as we've discussed before, not only that, but that happens again today. Governments today get their power sometimes from religion. Look at it around the world. And these religions claim to have God behind them, and sometimes they look like they're godly, like that beast, but in reality they're not. They give power to the government in order to make war on God's people. That's what's happening today. And I said it will happen from now until God returns through the clouds to this earth. All right. It's tough. I hope I didn't do it too fast. I hope it was beneficial. I wasn't there. God didn't give me no special revelation, so I'm not going to say it's 100% accurate. It just is what makes sense to me. All right, any other thoughts?
1260, time of Habakkuk was described as 1260 years. I don't know where that.
1260
years.
Not necessarily years, 1260 units, which incidentally does come out to that when you start putting days. If you convert 3.5 into, when you start about convert 3.5 into years, that comes out that many days. And so sometimes you will see that interchanged in different places to give a unit character there. All right.
2 Thessalonians 2nd chapter describes the Catholic Church. It happened, it started in Paul's time, they destroyed when Christ comes.
Okay. Anything else? All right, next week we will look at the next chapter, which I believe is chapter 8. Yes, chapter 8, which is another vision. It's more about the Greeks that we'll look at then.